Okay. Hold on. Judge is in session. What is the problem here?
You put my stuff in Jell-O again. That's real professional. Thanks. This is the third time, and it wasn't funny the first two times either.
All right.
Remember when canceled meant dead? Well, streaming changed that. The shows networks threw away became the ones people actually watched in syndication, on cable, anywhere but where they originally aired. Some TV shows are like fine wine. They get better with age. Others are like leftover pizza, which somehow tastes better the morning after when you're standing in front of an open refrigerator questioning your life choices. Syndication and streaming built these shows time machines, turned them into cultural zombies, and made them more famous dead than they ever were when they were alive. But before we begin, hit that like button if you've ever fallen down a syndication rabbit hole at midnight or at 3 a.m. when you're struggling to sleep. Subscribe because we're about to count down the greatest afterlives in television history. Number 10, Little House on the Prairie. Little House on the Prairie premiered in 1974.
We go in now?
Not just yet.
Charles! We've all been in the house 100 times.
But not today. Today's special.
Michael Landon made a show about wheat farming during an oil crisis. That was either visionary or the television equivalent of bringing a poetry book to a bar fight. Laura Ingalls Wilder's beloved books became a TV show about the Ingalls family surviving frontier life in Walnut Grove, Minnesota, a place where the biggest scandal was usually someone gossiping at the general store. Pa worked the land, Ma kept the household running with terrifying efficiency, and the kids learned valuable lessons about integrity, community, and how to stretch a single wool coat through a Minnesota winter.
It's kind of early to be asleep, isn't it?
Well, we weren't quite asleep, Pa.
Oh, that's good. I thought I might tell you a story.
Oh, please, Pa.
Everything was deeply sincere and unapologetically wholesome in ways that would have gotten you laughed out of most 1970s writers' room, where everyone else was trying to be edgy and relevant. For 9 seasons, Charles Ingalls chopped wood, dispensed folksy wisdom, and built furniture, all for free. The entire town of Walnut Grove ran on Pa Ingalls' unpaid labor and motivational speeches. The man was basically a frontier life coach with an axe and unlimited emotional bandwidth, solving every crisis with carpentry and a meaningful stare into the middle distance. Critics dismissed it as sentimental fluff compared to grittier family dramas where people had problems that couldn't be solved with a barn raising, but NBC kept it around because wholesome storytelling was the perfect escape from economic anxiety, gas lines, and the general chaos of the 1970s. The show wrapped in 1983, and most people figured Walnut Grove would fade into nostalgic memory alongside disco and bell-bottoms. Boy, were they catastrophically wrong. NBC licensed syndication rights to World Vision Enterprises, and Little House became the show that absolutely refused to leave. It aired continuously in syndication with a massive international following, becoming background comfort for generations of viewers who weren't even born when it premiered. Then, streaming stepped in and proved the Ingalls family might actually be immortal. In 2024, Little House on the Prairie logged 13.3 billion streaming minutes on Peacock alone. Not million, billion with a B, baby. A show where the most dramatic moment was usually someone breaking a plate somehow became one of streaming's biggest comfort watches. Nielsen gave it a Legacy Award in January of 2025 for being an unstoppable streaming force, which is basically the television equivalent of giving a participation trophy to Mount Everest. Turns out, kindness and log cabins don't age. The algorithm just keeps serving them up to people who need wholesome pioneers solving problems with carpentry, optimism, and the occasional inspiring speech about perseverance. No irony required. Number 9, Family Guy. Family Guy got the Super Bowl lead-in slot in 1999, the kind of premiere most shows would sacrifice a writer's room for.
Cut it out! Stop it! I mean it! But I told you to stop.
Fox handed Seth MacFarlane's animated comedy The Golden Ticket, the prime time real estate, the works. Then immediately panicked because they'd greenlit a show that made The Simpsons look like educational programming. The Griffin family, led by dim-witted Peter and his perpetually patient wife Lois, were raising 3 kids in Quahog, Rhode Island. Dopey teenager Chris, Stewie, the baby genius bent on matricide and world domination, and that 3rd kid whose name escapes us. Their talking dog Brian drank martinis, quoted Hemingway he'd probably never read, and dispensed philosophical wisdom nobody asked for. Basically, your freshman year roommate who discovered Kerouac and made it everyone's problem, except with 4 legs and better hair. The show's structure was barely a structure. Cutaway gags interrupted every conversation. "This is worse than that time, became the show's entire narrative engine. Pop culture references replaced actual plot development. A chicken in a yellow suit showed up to fight Peter for 5 uninterrupted minutes. Conway Twitty performed entire songs while the plot waited patiently off stage, and America couldn't decide whether Brian was charming or unbearable. Spoiler alert, he was insufferable, and that was kind of the point."
All right, I'll take that, and I'm gonna hurry home and show it to Lois.
Hey, I'd recognize that voice anywhere. You're Dingo, that dog that plays all those fart sounds on the radio. Awesome.
Fox treated the show like a couch they couldn't decide where to put, shuffling around the schedule like they were playing television Tetris. Ratings declined, and after 3 seasons, Fox pulled the plug in 2002, citing poor performance and probably relief. That should have been the end of Peter Griffin's adventures. Then syndication changed everything. Adult Swim picked up the reruns in 2003, and Family Guy found its natural habitat. Insomniacs, night shift workers, college students who'd abandoned sleep schedules entirely, and anyone awake enough at 2 a.m. to appreciate a 3-minute Conway Twitty cutaway as high art. That would be me. The show Fox couldn't figure out how to market suddenly made perfect sense at midnight. The reruns developed a cult following, but here's what actually brought it back from the dead: DVD sales. Family Guy box sets absolutely exploded, moving millions of copies and outpacing every other TV show on disc, including shows that were, still on the air. Turns out everyone wanted to own the show they claimed was too offensive for network TV. They just didn't want anyone to know they were buying 3 seasons worth. Fox looked at the numbers, did the math, and realized they'd accidentally thrown away a money printer. The show came back in 2005, and MacFarlane turned Resurrection into an empire. American Dad launched, The Cleveland Show happened, Family Guy kept running, and suddenly adult animation wasn't just The Simpsons and South Park, it was a legitimate programming block. The show's resurrection proved cartoons could be crass, experimental, and completely unhinged, paving the way for the Boondocks, Bob's Burgers, Archer, and basically every animated comedy that's aired since. 20+ seasons later, it's still running. Family Guy survived cancellation, survived its own creator mostly leaving to make Star Wars movies and Ted, and survived becoming the show everyone loves to hate watch. It turned cancellation into a business model and proved that sometimes getting fired is just the beginning of a very long, very profitable career. Number 8, The George Lopez Show. From 2002 to 2007, ABC had one of the few Latino-led sitcoms on network television. A groundbreaking show they promoted like it was a secret they'd accidentally left in the glove compartment. George Lopez played a working-class factory manager raising 2 kids with his wife Angie while surviving his mother Benny, a woman who treated affection like a tax audit and sarcasm like a second language.
I'm working. What do you want?
I don't know. A cup of coffee, a muffin? A reason why you told me my dad was dead for 36 years?
Here's a muffin. 1 out of 3 ain't bad.
Oh, no. I tried to call you all last night, and you ducked me this morning. You're not walking away. We're going to talk about this now.
Really? What are you going to do about it? Hit me? Come on. Hit me.
Their dynamic wasn't sitcom bickering, it was psychological dodgeball played with childhood trauma and perfectly timed one-liners. The show tackled racism, colorism, identity, immigration, alcoholism, and money stress, but wrapped it inside jokes sharp enough to make studio execs sweat. This was a sitcom that managed to be mainstream without sanding off the edges. And then here's where things get weird. ABC never aired a single episode above 8:30 p.m. They stuck a Latino family sitcom in scheduling purgatory and then acted shocked when the ratings weren't sitcom of the year numbers. It was like handing someone a Ferrari and then complaining it doesn't fly. When ABC canceled it in 2007, George said the network acted like they were tossing out old promo posters instead of a show with a massive loyal audience. Then came the twist. 30 days later, literally 1 month, Nick at Night swooped in like a rerun vigilante and grabbed it. And suddenly, the show ABC treated like a tax write-off became the #1 show on all of cable during late night hours. It regularly beat Friends reruns in key demos. Kids who barely knew multiplication tables were quoting Benny's one-liners like scripture. Entire families bonded over that iconic lowrider opening like it was a national anthem for night owls. And that second wave fandom didn't just grow, it mutated.
All my friends know the lowrider.
Clips went viral, the theme song became a meme, and George Lopez somehow became one of Gen Z's most recognized comedians because they watched him fall off a factory chair every night at 11 p.m. 18 years later, The George Lopez Show still airs on multiple networks every single week. ABC had lightning in a bottle. Nick at Night grabbed that bottle, shook it, turned off the lights, and turned the whole room fluorescent. Number 7. Everybody Hates Chris. In 2005, Chris Rock looked at his miserable childhood in 1980s Brooklyn and thought, this would make great television. He was right, even if it took networks 4 seasons to figure that out. Tyler James Williams played young Chris navigating Bed-Stuy, getting picked on at school, and surviving family dynamics that made regular dysfunction look amateur.
What are you waiting for? Cornbread. This should be over any minute.
Chris Rock's narration turned everyday childhood humiliation into comedic poetry, the kind of retrospective commentary that made you laugh while simultaneously feeling grateful you weren't him. His parents, Julius and Rochelle, kept the family afloat on a shoestring budget held together with determination and parental authority. Julius worked 2 jobs and treated electricity like a luxury item they couldn't afford, flipping off light switches like he was personally paying Edison's estate every time someone left a room.
What about the meat? I mean, we lost $117.43 worth of meat.
I'm sorry. According to our records, you opted out of the meat coverage.
Well, at the time, we didn't have any meat to cover.
Rochelle managed the household with the kind of no-nonsense authority that made drill sergeants look permissive. She could end arguments with a single look, guilt-trip you into compliance, and make you apologize for things you hadn't even done yet. His younger siblings existed primarily to make Chris's life harder, as siblings do. Drew was the effortlessly cool younger brother who somehow got away with everything, while Tanya weaponized being Daddy's favorite like it was an Olympic sport.
Hello? Is this Mr. Freely? Mr. I.P. Freely?
Chris got blamed for everything, survived on scraps of parental approval, and somehow made it to school every day, despite the universe's clear commitment to his suffering. The show assembled an insane roster of recurring talent. Emmy winner Jack A. Harry, Oscar winner Whoopi Goldberg, Emmy winner Loretta Devine, comedy vet Tisha Campbell-Martin, and other big names who knew exactly what kind of show they were making. Tyler James Williams was great. The kid carried every episode with perfect comedic timing and the kind of expressive face that could convey existential dread at 13. But let's be honest, everyone tuned in for Rochelle. Tashina Arnold turned Everybody Hates Chris into Everybody Fears Rochelle, and it was glorious.
I thought vegetables wasn't a meal. Now I should send you to Africa since you don't want to eat.
My mother could deal with a lot of things, but a child who wouldn't eat was not one of them.
You're gonna sit there until you eat that sausage.
The show ran 4 seasons ending in May of 2009. Critics praised it, audiences enjoyed it, but it never became the ratings juggernaut networks dream about, and the CW let it go without much fanfare. Nick at Night grabbed it just months after the finale, September of 2009, making it one of the youngest shows ever to enter Nickelodeon's syndication lineup. The ink on the cancellation papers was barely dry, and already another network saw what the CW couldn't. From there, it spread like wildfire. Teen Nick, BET, Fuse, Bounce TV, and currently, Dabble. The show networks couldn't figure out how to market became the show every cable network wanted. Turns out authentic storytelling about working-class black family life in the 80s had universal appeal. It just took syndication to prove it. Then it went international, and things got weird in the best way. Brazil fell in love with it. Reruns still air every Sunday. Every single Sunday. A show about growing up broke in 1980s Brooklyn became must-watch television in Sao Paulo, proving that struggling to fit in, dealing with strict parents, and surviving school bullies translates in any language. Kenya Television Network ran it from 2006 to 2009. Chris Rock's miserable childhood became a global export. The show about hating Chris became the show everyone loved, just not on the network that actually aired it first. Number 6. Schitt's Creek. Schitt's Creek debuted in 2015 on CBC and Pop TV, 2 networks so tiny in the US that most Americans couldn't find them with a treasure map, a compass, and a weekend survival kit. Dan and Eugene Levy created a show about a fallen rich family stuck in a motel in a town with a name that practically dared advertisers to complain. The first few seasons averaged about 150,000 viewers in the US, numbers usually reserved for public access knitting tutorials. Critics loved it, but the audience was basically 12 Canadians, a handful of US comedy nerds, and whatever poor souls fell onto Pop TV by accidentally sitting on their remote. Then Netflix picked it up in 2017 and the show detonated. GIF culture turned Moira Rose into a high-camp demigod. David's sweaters became emotional support textiles, Alexis's hand gestures became an entire language, and suddenly people who had never set foot in a small town were quoting "Ill David" at brunch like it was scripture. Even Moira's wigs gained their own fandom, which is honestly the most Moira Rose thing imaginable. Now, here's where the weirdness levels go off the chart. Dan Levy literally learned how to write, direct, and run a television series in real time. The man started season 1 googling what does a showrunner do and ended season 6 standing on stage with 4 Emmys in one night like he'd been training for it since birth. Then came 2020. The show didn't just win a few Emmys, it swept all 7 major comedy categories. The first time in TV history anyone had pulled that off. A sitcom that once averaged fewer viewers than a mid-level YouTuber became the most celebrated comedy of the decade.
A couple?
One, a blouse.
What about this?
Well, that's not an option. No.
But I have my sister's communion this weekend.
Okay, don't do that.
Don't do what? Do you not like it? Good recommendation, sir.
Schitt's Creek went from tiny Canadian sitcom with a funny name to global comfort show. People watched it during breakups, bad days, pandemics, emotional spirals, existential crises, basically everything 2020 threw at humanity. It became the TV equivalent of a warm blanket and a glass of wine. Hollywood spent 50 years calling Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara reliable character actors. It took a low-budget show on Pop TV to remind everyone that legends don't fade, they just occasionally air on a channel that nobody can find. Now I have a quick question. Have you ever discovered a new old show at 2 a.m. and wondered how you missed it? Let us know which one down in the comment section below. And make sure to hit like, subscribe, and stick around because we've got more canceled shows that refuse to die. Like this one at number 5, Arrested Development. In 2003, Mitchell Hurwitz created comedy for people who enjoyed doing homework. Arrested Development was so dense with callbacks, running gags, and meta references that watching it once felt like skimming a novel you'd need to read 3 more times to fully appreciate. The Bluth family's frozen banana fortune collapsed when patriarch George Sr. got arrested for fraud, light treason, and creative accounting. That left straight man son Michael trying to hold together a family that included his narcissistic mother Lucille, failed magician brother G.O.B., which is pronounced Job, something we definitely knew before the last video and absolutely didn't butcher while half the comment section lost their minds. Side note, I went and watched this show and I realized my mistake. I do hope you'll forgive me. Anyway, the Bluths might crack the top spot on this list someday.
Are you living in one of Saddam's many palaces? They may have been built by the same developer. And a SEAL attack. Meet one surprised bather coming up.
There's also developmentally arrested brother Buster, twin sister Lindsay, and her never-nude therapist husband Tobias.
As a member of the Blue Man Group?
Oh no, you're thinking of the support group. I made that same mistake myself. They're called the Blue Man Group. But it's funny, if I hadn't sought out a support group, I never would have gotten this gig as an understudy for a performance art group.
Plus teenage niece Maybe, who was somehow the most functional person in the entire disaster. Every episode was a masterclass in dysfunction, wordplay, and visual gags that rewarded obsessive rewatching. The Bluths made The Sopranos look emotionally healthy. Shot in documentary style with Ron Howard narrating like an amused god watching humanity's worst decisions, the show earned critical raves and Emmy love.
Just Michael, take a few of these cards and really think about it.
All right.
Yeah, man, I got a tough meeting coming up now. How do you tell Ed Harris that he's simply not a Barney?
But it had low ratings throughout its 3-season Fox run. Fox had the smartest show on television and absolutely no idea what to do with it. They canceled it in 2006, and most people figured the Bluths were done for good. But Arrested Development refused to stay dead. DVD box sets became must-haves for comedy nerds. Owning them was like having a comedy degree in your living room. You could study every callback, catch every background gag, hello Lucille, decode layered jokes that sailed past on first viewing, catalog chicken dance variations, and rewatch until you finally understood why the cornballer kept appearing and why no one should ever touch it. After cancellation, Fox sold the 53-episode run for syndication. First stop was Microsoft's MSN Video before cable channel G4. In 2006, this was revolutionary. Arrested Development became one of the first shows to bet on digital distribution before streaming was even a word most people understood. Fox accidentally stumbled into the future while trying to squeeze money out of a failed show. That cult following paid off in 2013 when Netflix revived it for a 4th season 7 years after Fox gave up. The show, too dense for network television, became perfect viewing for streaming culture. Viewers could binge entire seasons, pause to catch background jokes written on signs or hidden in newspaper headlines, rewind to catch throwaway lines that became running gags 3 episodes later, and finally understand every callback without waiting a week between episodes to forget half the setup. Streaming gave Arrested Development what it always needed: an audience that could treat watching TV like studying for an exam they actually wanted to take. Number 4. Star Trek. Star Trek premiered in 1966 with a budget that looked generous until you realized they were trying to depict the entire galaxy using foam rocks, Christmas lights, and whatever the prop department found in the desolate backlot.
Shall operate the transporter. You have 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
By that time, I have something to say. How long before the Hulkan prediction of galactic revolt is realized?
Approximately 240 years.
The inevitable outcome?
The Empire shall be overthrown, of course.
Gene Roddenberry's space opera promised to boldly go where no show had gone before. Mostly it went to the bottom of the Nielsen ratings and got crushed weekly by the Beverly Hillbillies. Space exploration lost to royal comedy. Welcome to television in the 1960s. Captain Kirk commanded the USS Enterprise, ripping shirts, seducing aliens, and solving interstellar crises with equal parts diplomacy and dramatic pauses.
Captain, stand over there. Doctor, it is time for answers.
His Vulcan science officer Spock raised a skeptical eyebrow at human emotion while secretly being the most ride-or-die friend in the galaxy, and Dr. McCoy complained constantly about being a doctor, not a bricklayer, not an escalator, not a coal miner. Basically not anything the plot required him to be, while somehow fixing every medical emergency with future medicine that looked suspiciously like a salt shaker. Roddenberry put a Russian navigator, a Japanese helmsman, and an African-American woman in positions of authority on the bridge during the height of the Cold War and Civil Rights era. NBC executives probably thought progressive ideals wrapped in velour uniforms would tank the ratings, and they were right, but they were also building the future. The Enterprise crew solved interstellar crises with a combination of technobabble, philosophical speeches, and whatever the prop department could assemble on a Thursday afternoon. Nielsen ratings stayed low, audiences never showed up, and NBC buried it in the Friday night death slot where shows go to die, and canceled it in 1969 after 79 episodes. That should have been the end of Starfleet's adventures. Instead, it became the beginning of modern fandom. Letter-writing campaigns to save the show during its original run became the blueprint for fan activism. Conventions started. Trekkies, later Trekkers, because the distinction apparently mattered to people who'd learned Klingon, formed communities and built a subculture so devoted they made NBC's cancellation irrelevant. Turns out you can't kill a show when the fans refuse to let it die. Kaiser Broadcasting took a gamble on the canceled show's reruns, using them as counter-programming against the evening news. Their ratings improved enough that stations like WPIX in New York and WKBS in Philadelphia started buying episodes, betting that space adventures might work better in reruns than they did in primetime, and they were right. Now, here's where it gets wild. Prices for Star Trek reruns rose over time instead of falling like typical syndication. By 1986, 17 years after entering syndication, Star Trek was the most popular syndicated series on television. In 1987, Paramount was making $1 million per episode. People magazine joked it might rerun until the universe crawls back into its little black hole. What NBC tossed away as a ratings failure, syndication transformed into the most successful franchise in sci-fi history. The syndication success funded a 1979 motion picture, which spawned sequels, spin-offs, and more sequels. The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, Discovery, Strange New Worlds. Paramount has been milking Roddenberry's 3-season failure for over 50 years now. NBC canceled it after 3 seasons, but syndication beamed it up to places even Scotty couldn't have imagined. Number 3. The Brady Bunch. In 1969, Sherwood Schwartz created a blended family sitcom that existed in a parallel dimension where the biggest crisis involved bathroom mirror scheduling and the outside world consisted entirely of sunshine, school dances, and the occasional tiki cruise.
Sure it is.
What is?
Well, I've got to call Carrie. She'll faint when she hears.
Here's what? The fantastic news!
This is where I came in.
Hey, wait for me! I got seconds on the phone.
You second after me.
Mike Brady, widower architect with 3 boys, married Carell, a widow with 3 girls, neither of them ever mentioning their previous spouses ever again, because apparently that would have been awkward. Greg thought his band Johnny Bravo was going somewhere.
But you don't understand. I'm part of a group.
No, you don't understand. You're not you anymore.
I don't follow.
You are a superstar. You are the new Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo?
Johnny Bravo.
Marsha was the golden child whose perfection gave Jan a lifelong complex and the battle cry, Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. Peter's voice cracked at plot-convenient moments, Bobby schemed, Cindy lisped, and somehow these 6 kids acted like siblings who'd known each other forever, despite the whole blended family thing being recent enough that they should have been awkward strangers. Alice, the live-in housekeeper, maintained that kitchen's impossible cleanliness, dispensed wisdom, dated Sam the Butcher in television's most wholesome courtship, and never once questioned living in a house with only one bathroom serving 8 people. The woman was either a saint or had nowhere else to go. While America dealt with gas lines and Watergate, the Bradys worried about who broke mom's favorite vase. The show existed in a bubble so wholesome it made actual 1970s families feel inadequate. Greg met Davy Jones, the family went to Hawaii and brought back a cursed tiki, everyone wore matching outfits to mundane events. It was aggressively, impossibly wholesome. The show ran 5 seasons, never cracked the Nielsen Top 20, and got canceled in 1974. The entertainment press treated it like a cultural embarrassment. So aggressively wholesome it bordered on satire, except everyone was playing it completely straight. Everyone assumed that was the end. They were spectacularly, hilariously, historically wrong. The series entered syndication in September of 1975, just 1 year after cancellation. Kids coming home from school found it waiting on local stations like a patient friend who'd never leave. That wholesome family became the gold standard for American households, even though no actual family resembled them.
How about jelly beans? With mustard and relish. And lots of pickles, too.
Mozzarella, pick.
And jelly beans.
And 1 bag jelly beans.
Thanks, Alice.
The Bradys became comfort food television. They were predictable, safe, and exactly what people needed after dealing with actual 1970s chaos. TBS aired it through the 90s, Nickelodeon grabbed it, TV Land made it a staple, and the show outlasted most networks that aired it. The syndication success spawned the Brady Bunch Hour, a variety show that no one asked for, The Brady Brides, a very Brady Christmas, The Bradys, a failed drama that tried to make the family gritty, and the brilliantly self-aware 90s films that turned impossible wholesomeness into meta-comedy and somehow worked.
Oh, here comes Doug. Go away.
Sure.
No, stay.
Okay.
No, leave. Fine. No, stay and pretend I just said something really funny.
The show the entertainment press dismissed became a cultural institution, still airing decades later. Syndication proved that sometimes America doesn't want realism, it wants 6 kids sharing 1 bathroom and solving problems in 22 minutes. Number 2, Chappelle Show. Chappelle's Show premiered on Comedy Central in 2003. By then, Dave Chappelle had spent years in Hollywood's margins, scene stealing in Robin Hood Men in Tights, doing stand-up in The Nutty Professor, co-writing Half-Baked, the stoner comedy that became a touchstone for exactly the audience Comedy Central would desperately want. He'd proven he was funny. What nobody expected was how fearless he'd be with his own platform.
Ready, John? Okay, cool. Go.
Dave Chappelle and Neil Brennan built sketch comedy that tackled race, politics, and pop culture with zero safety nets and maximum audacity. The show delivered sketches that became instant cultural touchstones. Rick James stomping on Eddie Murphy's couch. "I'm Rick James, bitch!"
I'm Rick James, bitch. Enjoy yourself.
Became a catchphrase that outlived the sketch itself. A blind black white supremacist leading the KKK. Prince playing basketball in a frilly shirt. The racial draft, where races traded celebrities like sports franchises. Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories, where leather pants and pancakes became legend. Every episode felt dangerous. Like Chappelle was saying things out loud that everyone thought, but nobody dared to broadcast on cable television. During its original run, the show was popular within Comedy Central's limited universe, which in the early 2000s meant college students, insomniacs, and people who'd memorized their cable guide, like me. The broader mainstream audience hadn't discovered it yet, though, which meant millions were missing sketches that would become more quoted than their high school history lessons. When Chappelle walked away mid-season 3 in 2006, leaving behind 3 lost episodes and an entire entertainment industry wondering what the hell just happened, most people figured that was the end. No more sketches, no more Rick James, no more cultural moments that made you laugh uncomfortably and then question why you were laughing. Nobody expected what happened next, though. The DVDs exploded. The first season obliterated every sales record, becoming the best-selling TV DVD of all time. Season 2 broke that record, moving over 1.2 million copies in its first week. People needed to own these sketches so they could rewatch them, memorize every line, and force their friends to sit through "I'm Rick James, bitch" one more time, just like you did right there. A canceled comedy show was outselling Friends, The Sopranos, and every other show people actually watched on television. When streaming arrived, Chappelle's show landed on Netflix and HBO Max in November of 2020. Then, Chappelle publicly asked both platforms to remove it over contract disputes, essentially telling Netflix and HBO Max to stop making money off his back. And they did. Both platforms pulled the show, proving Chappelle had more leverage than billion-dollar streaming services. He renegotiated his deal with Viacom-CBS in February of 2021. The show returned, and the entire saga demonstrated something network executives had missed years earlier. Chappelle had more power than the platforms distributing his work.
There's me at 18, sincere, earnest, relentlessly optimistic. And then there was me at 24, budding movie star, reefer addict, and a man with a sexual appetite that would make Michael Douglas seem gay.
Now, here's the twist. Walking away might have been the best career move he ever made. Chappelle became one of the most acclaimed comedians of all time, landing a monster Netflix deal worth tens of millions of dollars. The career he built after leaving, with stand-up specials that became cultural events, complete creative control, and the ability to say exactly what he wanted without network interference, might not have happened if he'd stayed chained to sketch comedy. The show Comedy Central couldn't quite handle became the show that bent the entire streaming industry to its creator's will. Number 1. The Office. The Office premiered in 2005 with a premise that sounded like career suicide. Take a beloved British mockumentary known for its cringe-inducing awkwardness, adapt it for American audiences, set it in Scranton, Pennsylvania, a city whose main claim to fame was being mentioned in a Billy Joel song nobody remembers, and hope people care about a paper company selling a product everyone was actively trying to stop using. Michael Scott ran the Scranton branch of Dunder Mifflin with the leadership skills of a golden retriever and the self-awareness of a brick. Steve Carell turned what could have been an unbearable boss into somehow lovable chaos. A man who threw himself into a koi pond, declared bankruptcy by yelling it, and turned the Dundies into an annual workplace trauma everyone secretly enjoyed.
Howard, like Mo Howard, Three Stooges. Yep, watch this. This is Mo.
Jim Halpert pranked his deskmate Dwight Schrute while pining for receptionist Pam Beasley. The documentary crew captured the awkward silences, the conference room meetings that accomplished absolutely nothing, and workplace mundanity that somehow became appointment television. But here's what made it special. The Office was as true an ensemble as you can get. Everyone had their favorite character. Some people saw themselves in Phyllis's quiet shade throwing, others related to Stanley's countdown to retirement energy, Kelly's drama, Andy's try-hard desperation, Kevin's Kevinness, Angela's judgmental superiority, Oscar's exasperated corrections, and then there's Creed and Meredith. Characters everyone loved, but hopefully nobody actually identified with. Please, for the love of the Dundies, tell us you're not relating to Creed.
If it gets out, they won't let me scuba. If I can't scuba, then what's this all been about? What am I working toward?
During its 9-season NBC run, The Office won Emmys, earned Peabodys, and built loyal following that critics loved and advertisers ignored.
Welcome to my convenience store. Would you like some googie googie? Oh, I have some very delicious googie googie, only 99 cents plus tax. Try my googie googie. Try my googie googie. Try my googie googie. Try my...
It was successful enough to justify renewal, but never the ratings monster networks obsess over. Even after Steve Carell left and the show limped through 2 more seasons without Michael Scott, NBC kept it on life support until 2013. The show entered syndication in 2007 on TBS, then expanded in 2009. The numbers were respectable, but not remarkable. The kind of performance that suggested a nice afterlife in cable reruns before fading into nostalgic memory. Then Netflix happened and everything changed. All 9 seasons dropped at once, and suddenly The Office found the audience NBC never delivered. Binge culture transformed casual viewers into devoted fans who could quote entire episodes, identify them by cold opens, fire drill anyone, parkour, and debate whether Jim and Pam were actually good for each other. The show's episodic nature made it perfect for background viewing. Drop in anywhere, rewatch Dinner Party for the 47th time, or fall asleep to Michael Scott's voice and wake up 3 seasons later. That's What She Said evolved from Michael Scott's crutch to national catchphrase to something people say reflexively in business meetings. proving Dunder Mifflin's cultural influence outlasted the actual paper industry itself. The numbers were staggering. In 2020, The Office logged 57 billion minutes streamed on Netflix, more than any new show that year, beating shows with massive marketing budgets. It became the comfort food of an entire generation. NBC Universal noticed and decided they wanted their show back, pulling it to Peacock for $500 million in January of 2021. Netflix offered $90 million annually to keep it, a staggering sum for a show that finished airing in 2013 but got outbid. Peacock sweetened the deal with superfan episodes featuring extended cuts and deleted scenes, bribing fans to follow the migration. NBC spent 9 seasons, 2 without their lead actor, trying to figure out what they had. Streaming showed them it was everything. The show about a failing paper company in Scranton became the most valuable comfort food in television history, proof that sometimes the best shows aren't the ones that dominate ratings, but the ones that stick around long enough for people to finally notice. And there you have it, 10 shows that became more popular in syndication and streaming. Which show surprised you the most? Which one became your comfort food? Be sure to subscribe and share this with a friend who loves discovering old shows that refuse to die. And until next time, this is Remember When.